Welcome. Thank you so much. We know how busy schedules are for you to take the time to spend it with us. I am Christine Quinn, and I'm the founder of Living Kindness. And we empower families to be their best as they support their loved ones or their allies that are struggling with substance misuse. Because we know how important it is for healthy families to support those who are on the recovery journey. So tonight our topic is self-love. So with that, um, let's just pause for a little bit, allow ourselves to transition, and we're going to ask Lori. Oh, first I'm going to introduce her. Sorry. So some of you know Lori and some of you do not. So Lori Friesen is a psychotherapist and a relationship coach. She has her own company, Aleph Coaching, and her work really focuses on relationships and the premise that the relationships we have with others are only as good as our relationship with ourselves. And so I think that is so perfect for tonight as we each face our daily journeys. So we thought maybe we would have Lori start us with a little mindful meditation, and then we'll go into a brief interview with Lori. So go ahead, Lori, if you would lead us in that mindful meditation.
Sure, Christine, I'd love to. And, if people join, that's just fine. We'll just keep going. It should just take us about, 2 to 4 minutes here to do this. And I chose this one because it helps us connect to the feeling of love within ourselves, which is what we're trying to do. So I'm going to invite you to either soften your gaze downward if you'd like. You can close your eyes if you're comfortable, but just begin to feel your body. Just begin to slow down and release, allowing a little tension to leave your shoulders and your belly and your legs, giving in to gravity just so gently. And then begin to notice your breath and your chest moving with your breath, up and down, right at your heart center, allowing your full attention to be right there at your heart center, almost like you can breathe from your heart. Breathing in, breathing out. And if you choose, I invite you to imagine a beautiful ball of light right in front of your heart area. Even put your hands there like it could hold this ball of light. You can make it any color you want that represents love to you, but just feeling into that warm, nourishing ball of light right in front of your heart area, almost like you could hold it. And as you breathe, there's an exchange between the ball and your heart, in and out, connecting to that soft, safe, warm light. And with your next inhale, I'm going to invite you to expand your arms open and let that light spread across your arms and shoulders outward. And inhale, bring your hands back together so the ball of light comes back right in front of your chest. Inhale, bring your arms out and let that ball of light spread out across your chest. And you might silently say, I open myself to love. And then exhale, bringing it in, feeling the love at your heart center. One more time, spreading open, letting that light spread across your chest. I open myself to love. Exhale, bring it back together right in front of your heart. And just feel the presence or sense of a nourishing energy of love right at your heart center. You might even say, I feel the love within me and around me. And just see what you experience with that opening to love. settling into the softness of the light right at your heart center, and then gently releasing any visualization and just check in with yourself, noticing what you notice and letting that be okay. One final breath, and then return your attention to the screen, and we'll begin our call.
Thank you, Lori. That was very nice. So as we begin, Lori, could you please share with us a little bit how self-love has transformed your life or the lives of your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's something that is super common that we don't typically walk around thinking, oh, hey, I don't like myself. I mean, you might, but that's not usually how it presents. It usually presents in other ways, or gets touched into when there are challenges, when we're disappointed, when we're let down. That's usually when it'll show up because we'll end up talking to ourselves in the same old ways. And I think about a gal I worked with who her work life was really set. She was really successful in that area. She was health minded, would do yoga. Overall, she had a great life in many ways. But for the life of her, she couldn't maintain a romantic relationship. So here she is, somebody just like you and I who's has a good life on paper, but in her own mind, she can't maintain a relationship. And she had had a couple really hurtful experiences. One was in middle school, wasn't invited to a party, and ended up finding out later that her friends had talked about her at this party. She felt really embarrassed and sad and alone at a really impressionable time. And then fast forward the clock, she was engaged to be married and literally standing at the altar when her fiance broke off the engagement or the marriage, and ended up telling her that he was having an affair and he was leaving her for the other woman. So you can imagine the deep hurt that she felt. So regular life experiences, but what she was taking away and what she was focused on was reinforcing these experiences, were reinforcing the idea that she wasn't good enough. See, other people leave me. See, I'm going to mess up their lives, was actually one of the thoughts she shared with me. And she was vigilant for things she was doing that were stupid. That was her word. Oh, I'm so stupid. That would, quote, mess up the relationship. So she ended up building up this armor of sorts and would keep herself at an arm's distance in relationships. The walls come up, right? She's going to protect herself. I'll leave you before you leave me. So, really, not extreme scenarios, but here she is not able to maintain a relationship when she really deeply wants a relationship. Um, she had a pattern of like every year and a half, she would break it off. It just sort of serial monogamy in that way, but very frustrated and would, she said, in her words, would just push down the emotions and move on. Like she would just sort of make up her mind that it was done and she was getting out. Um, so we knew that she wasn't feeling good enough, and that became the focus of our work. There were other pieces, of course, but she had to unwind that idea that she wasn't good enough. Otherwise, it was going to haunt her and keep her from having the kind of relationship that she wanted. So I think that's a client relationship, Christine, or a client example. And I mean, I have my own personal journey, as I kind of believe we all do, because the nature of socialization is for us to push down who we really are so that we can fit in with other people. And from the mind of a child, we often misinterpret that to mean something negative about ourselves. So that's really what we want to unearth. We want to become conscious and live from the capable adults we are today, and not
Right.
the old stories. Yeah.
So before you move on too much to your examples as well, can you go back to your client and share with us any techniques or tactics that you might have shared with her in terms of how she could get through that barrier of not being able to have a meaningful relationship and to love to herself?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, one of the things that was present for her was she wouldn't honor her own feelings. Um, she would stuff them down and move on, as I was saying, and that really took a toll because that is a direct rejection of part of herself, how she was feeling, how she was thinking. She wasn't able to honor it, and inside of that, then would do the things to keep herself safe. She wouldn't share who she was, her own thoughts or feelings with people, and she would end the relationship. And so this was sort of like a little bit of a cycle that she had to turn around, not just by starting to see herself differently, but learning to create safety inside herself. So, Christine, I just took a long way of trying to say that, is that she really had to learn how to be safe within herself. The way she talked to herself, the way she related to her emotions, these were game changers. The way she viewed herself, she had to learn how to take responsibility for her thoughts and manage them. Otherwise, she was going to continue to live out the same pattern over and over, with much pain. So that was the heart of the work we did. There were other pieces, but
So you have been in a meaningful relationship for a long period of time. What does your self-love journey look like?
well, then yeah, I would say that it's different from my client example. So she used distance to protect herself. My strategy was more people pleasing. I would overgive and be over responsible, trying to take on the feelings of others and take care of other people, sacrificing myself in the process, right? But in my mind, that was what gave me value to them. If I could take care of them right or make them happy, well, then they would keep me around. So that was an unwinding process too. And I'd have to say my journey started with mindfulness. Yes, I was learning skills and things from becoming a therapist, but the real turning point started with mindfulness because, as you'll find out if we talk later about some of the strategies, almost all of them begin with a foundation of awareness. Like we have to see what we're doing to interrupt it. And as I was just explaining, if it's that early conditioning that we have, that sets us up in these false narratives, well, we have to be able to have the consciousness to outgrow those or find something new and more true. So, mindfulness was really the big start to my own personal journey, becoming aware and starting to relate to myself differently. Um, this was before self-love was a focus of mine, but it was just that raw ability to see what I was experiencing and accept it, which mindfulness, that's a big part of mindfulness.
Great. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Can you share with us now some techniques that our audience might experiment with? So you've said awareness and mindfulness is a starting point. What are some other things like negative self-talk? How do you work with negative self-talk and try to convert that into kindness, for example?
Yeah, thank you. So, this, I want to make a distinction here between practices that we do and the relationship we have with ourselves, because there is a ton of value in practices. You want to talk kindly to yourself, and we can practice that. But one of the things that I would caution people about is that we are having a relationship with ourselves. So if you are finding that now there's a part of me that has to manage this naughty behavior of talking bad to myself. We are just back in that push-pull dynamic, right? Here's a part of me that has to exercise and meditate and I don't know, set boundaries or all the things. Now we just have that same sort of some part of me isn't okay message. So that's where I would say I would invite people to really start to look at, wow, what benefit is there to me with this negative self-talk? How's it helping me? Because it must be helping me in some way, otherwise, it would never maintain. And you begin to really explore, okay, what am I believing I'm going to get from talking to myself so harshly? And what's common is people will say, well, it keeps me on track. It helps me stay motivated, right? I don't know if people can relate to that, but I hear that a lot. And uh, and so you would be having that conversation to find a different way, a healthy way, a nourishing way to motivate yourself. And it really is like, well, there's me and there's this part of me, and we're going to have a relationship. How can I work with that part? And it might also be as concrete as saying, hey, I choose not to talk to myself harshly. There are many ways that we can work with this. Um, but it starts with awareness, it starts with seeing it, and maybe that's enough to interrupt it for you at times. But at other times, you might need to go a little deeper and start to look at, all right, this is happening. It's a part of me. I want to work with it. I want to change it.
Great. Thank you so much. So
Yeah.
we all know how busy our lives are, and it's easy for us to get overwhelmed and feel stressed. Um, what are some techniques, maybe we call them self-soothing techniques, or way that we can even,
Mhm.
center ourselves so that we begin to have that awareness and can nourish that relationship we have with ourselves, for example?
Well, I'm sorry. Um, I think awareness is your foundation, and learning to develop and expand that is going to benefit you all the way around, right? So, as we were saying before, we can't fix what we can't see. And so, starting to become aware of how you're talking to yourself or how you're relating to emotions would be that first step. And something special I want to say about self-soothing or self-compassion is that it's a process. Don't expect yourself to just go from, hey, stupid, to, oh my gosh, I love myself. It's not going to happen that way. It's going to be more like, oh, that feels so weird to talk to myself. Super ooey gooey nice. Like that's just weird. I'm not doing it, right? That's really normal. There's good research on this. And then we kind of move into like, well, maybe I'll play with that a little bit. I'm going to experiment with that. Maybe I'll try talking to myself with this, or I'll just choose not to at least not be so mean. And then we kind of move into like, wow, this really feels different. This really feels good. I want to try this consistently until the point where you're like integrated. It's part of my life. So begin wherever it's right for you, just knowing you're in a process. And your big intention is to be an unwavering source of support for yourself through your words, through accepting your emotions, through soothing yourself like you would anyone you love. So I mean that's a thought for you on that. But if I were to say, I'm sorry, Christine, did you have a question?
Yeah, so what I was going to say is I think what I'm hearing is to give us ourselves a space to experiment, right? Start where we
Yeah,
are, right?
nice.
And experiment with that and continue to be aware and see where we might land,
Right.
trying to get more compassionate with ourselves.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's a beautiful way to approach it. I would say that a key part of self-compassion is to build your capacity to observe yourself rather than being lost in an emotion. you are able to see the emotion and work with it. That is really helpful for calming yourself. So, similar to the self-talk thing, well, now there's me and there's the emotion. So you name it, you begin to talk to yourself. Hey, this really sucks right now. I'm really hurting right now, but it's going to be better. Or whatever words fit for you. I'm sorry you have to go through this. Every human goes through this. This is an emotion that maybe thousands of people are feeling right at this very moment. And and you continue on until the edge comes off.
I found that to be very helpful in relationships as well, right? For us to name what is the emotion we're feeling at this point in time. So thank you so much.
Mhm.
And boundaries become part of this conversation as well. Can you share a little bit about in terms of how do we create boundaries? How do we balance boundaries with maybe caregiving roles, relationships, and ourselves?
It's my opinion that good boundaries start with a person being able to be in their truth, really being able to own and honor what they think, even when it's inconvenient. That often what happens is we're afraid that what we think is going to ruin a relationship or cause upset, cause conflict. And so we dim it down. And that's how we've learned to keep the relationship good. But actually, that is what ruins the relationship. The opposite is true. That how good is the relationship really if you're sacrificing yourself? That's it's having good boundaries that actually upholds and creates relationship health. So really developing the ability to prioritize your own thoughts, sovereignty. I don't like it either, but this is what I think. This is what I feel. And sharing that with another person with respect and care. And then, Christine, I would just caution that a big part of boundaries that people often either, I don't know, mistake for boundaries not working or forget about, I guess, is just that it's going to be tested. The person you're setting the boundary with most often, I mean, if it's not a professional relationship, is going to come back and probably do the thing you're asking them not to do. So don't expect people to not be upset and don't expect it to just work the first time. And it takes a couple tries.
Great, that's great. So maybe just to end this, and then we can open up our conversation as well. Do you have any pointers in terms of the importance of daily self-care?
hmm So, some of the things we've mentioned already, meditation, gratitude practice, exercise and eating healthy, being in nature, these are all wonderful ways of promoting you being in that different state, which allows you to open to love. But there's also this other aspect which I'm relating to, which it's not a matter of taking time to do any practice or strategy, it's more how you relate to yourself. And that happens just woven right into your day, how you're relating to whatever's coming your way, um, and getting better and better at that and going deeper and deeper at that.
Great, thank you so much, Lori.